Good afternoon. I am with Travis Dick, President of the State Council from 2024 to 2025. When you joined the State Council, you were a staff member, student, clinical coordinator, or management?
I had just moved here from Utah and accepted a new job. I was a transplant specialist in Utah before I came here, and I took the clinical director job at the University of Rochester. So when I got here, I was in that administrative position, newly, if you will, and joined right when I got here.
Oh, who did you meet that made you want to advance in
So
the
in
council?
Utah, I was with the Utah affiliate of ASHP. So I'd been involved in ASHP for a number of years. And so, regardless of who I met, I was going to join the New York State chapter because ASHP was really my professional home. But in that first year, I met, I believe Stephanie Seiss was the president at the time. There was an event in Rochester, and she had come. I think Lisa Voigt was with her at the time. And so were both Lee Briscoe Dwyer and Kim Zamet at the same event. And so I met those four individuals at a society, I think it was a Pharmacy Society Rochester event in Rochester that time, and met them in my first year.
Oh, so you mentioned four previous past presidents. How
Mhm.
many other past presidents did you get to know, and what were they like?
At that time, that was the first four that I had met. Since then, obviously, being in this position, I've met quite a few. Um, we have past presidents meetings and those types of things. So I've been able to meet quite a number. I think to an individual, each of them have been supportive and helpful in their own way. Obviously, you know some better than others, but to an individual, everybody's been very willing to step in, provide advice, be able to bounce ideas off of. It's been a pretty cool organization to be a part of.
What challenges did you see as a member, board member, and president of the organization?
Many. And obviously, I've been involved with the council and through the pandemic. I think one of the newest challenges that's going to get into a question you're going to ask has been, I think that the value of professional societies and how people perceive value has changed over the years. And I think in a post-pandemic world, discretionary effort is lower than it was pre-pandemic. And I think that that's a big challenge for the council in the future and will be something that we'll need to reimagine ourselves as we kind of go forward. So people with discretionary effort. I also think that one of the challenges I saw is those that had been involved for a long time that had seen a lot of value. There was that conflict, if you will, not like outward conflict, but an internal conflict of this has worked well for us in the past, so it should in the future. And I just don't know if that's always going to be the case because I think people want different things. And so I've seen that through my time on the board and in my presidency, and engaging what I'll call the new look health system is going to be very important. And when I say new look health system, many health systems didn't have community pharmacies for the longest time. Now a lot do, and we have never really catered to community pharmacists, specialty pharmacy, home infusion, informatics, those types of things had been underrepresented in our organization. And I think that this could be their professional home in the future. So I think that those are also things that we've seen. And then, of course, historical norms. We've gone through board reorganizations and those types of things. That was one of my biggest challenges in the last few years is navigating the board shrinking and then expanding again. And then how does one navigate that change management as well as those that had done a lot of things in the past that kind of had to be undone because we had shrunk and now we're going to get bigger and have that not negatively impact their sense of value or worth because what they had done was awesome and what needed to be done. But then how do we forge the new future when we re-expanded? So that was also another big thing.
Okay. Membership always seemed to be an issue. Do you remember what members wanted during your presidency?
Great question. That that's something that, to be honest with you, we're still working through. What do members want? And I think it's variable based on history or where people are in their career, early career, mid-career, late career. I think the biggest thing people want is a venue to network, and they want information. I don't mean it in a bad way. They want the information readily available so that they can act on it when they need it. And I think that we're going to have to rethink how we communicate. For example, our website, very word heavy. We probably need to start moving towards more modern communication techniques with videos and those types of things where people digest more video things and have things on demand and are able to connect with individuals quickly when they're facing a challenge in their day-to-day work.
How often and where did the board of directors meet? Was it very organized and professional, or was it more camaraderie?
A great question. I think that the board currently, since I'm in my president year, functions pretty darn well. We've met virtually via Zoom or Teams, mostly Zoom. And then we've met in person, 3 in-person meetings throughout my presidency. I would say that there's a blend of professionalism and camaraderie. I think we've done a good job of building some professional relationships and trust amongst the board members. And I think that that's been a wonderful thing to see this year, and it's been growing. And then, of course, it's time to get work done. Everybody's willing to put their head down and get it done. And so I think one of the things I've seen about the board this year is there's been a shift from the day-to-day, what I'll call tactics of how we're getting things done, to spending more time on strategy and then letting some of the committees and work groups implement those things with the tactical elements. And then the board can bring that back for further discussion to see how we're making progress. So I've been pretty impressed with that.
Were there any major mishaps or issues when you were president which would be useful for future presidents not to repeat?
I don't think there's anything that was preventable that I could give as input to others. I think that transition and lead time is really important because when your president year hits, it really hits and you're off and running and it's over before you know it. But I don't know that there's anything that's preventable.
Oh, the annual assembly, when you became a member, what were the early annual assemblies like and where were they held?
Saratoga Springs is where they've been held pretty much my entire time of being involved in the council. And so it's been the same venue pretty much every year, except for the COVID years where we either canceled or did virtual. But that's kind of where it's been. Initially, it was kind of, I was a new face. Nobody really knew me. So it was a lot of strangers. And so there was a lot of time spent just trying to get to know people and identifying ways to get involved and just talking to people. And that obviously changes as you become more involved over the years. But I remember those first couple of years, not really knowing anybody and just being a strange face because I'd come from out of state and starting from the ground up, building a name.
What was it like when you were president at the annual assembly? Was it busy, chaotic, or sedate?
I've only done it as president-elect, and I'll tell you, it was really busy. This next, I don't know, 6, 8 weeks from now when I'm there, it'll be really busy. I'm certain. It's going to be hectic and there's going to be a lot of meetings, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be an awful lot of fun.
Generational changes. When you started, did you feel you needed to work your way up to the presidency? Do you feel new members will want to pay their dues based upon the philosophy that they have a bigger balance of personal time versus work time? Will the new members be able to move the council forward?
Oh, undoubtedly, they'll be able to move the council forward. I do think that it's probably going to take longer than some anticipate it to take if they were shooting for being the president of the organization. But they'll undoubtedly be able to move it forward in ways that, I or others haven't been able to think about, which is great. That's what happens. That's, a generation before me might have said the same thing. And the generation after me will be awesome. And the generation after them will as well. I have no doubt about that. I do think the path people take to becoming president may change. But I think that they've got all the tools and skills and are able to do it. But there is a generational change, if you will, just like my generation was probably perceived as a generational change, the generation before me. So I anticipate the council is going to thrive for the long run. It might look differently than we're doing it today, but that's probably a good thing too.
Okay. When you became president, was it everything you expected?
I don't know what I expected, Ted. So that's a really good question. I think so in many ways. There were unexpected things that happened, but I think in leadership, that's almost should be expected. And if it wasn't expected, you probably should adjust your expectations. The things that I thought I might spend my time on, I didn't spend as much time on, and I spent time doing other things. But it's been a rewarding experience. So I don't know that there was any major surprises, which is good.
Okay. Are there any favorite moments or memorable moments of your presidency?
A lot of little things. I think the moments with the board have been a lot of fun. I've built relationships that I can shoot a message to somebody any minute, text them, call them, and you got a colleague for life. The big things, I don't think anybody that's done this forgets their installation, the opportunity to stand on stage and talk a little bit to your peers. It's it's a big moment in a lot of ways. And I'm certain the moment I pass the baton on to Layla, it'll be very similar in memory to be able to say, "Oh wow, look at all the things that we were able to accomplish." I don't see this last year as a I or Travis's presidency. I was president of the board, but the board and the members were really able to move the organization forward. It wasn't a me thing. I was just kind of the chair that kind of organized things in some ways, but it was a team effort. So it was a pretty cool year.
Okay. Any final parting nuggets you wish to give to future members who wish to become president?
I would say if you're passionate about the profession and this is the way that you gain value, it's a really rewarding experience. And I would encourage anybody to throw their name in the hat and get involved. If you're doing it for prestige or title or anything like that, I wouldn't do it. It's an awful lot of work. It's not going to be extremely rewarding. So you got to kind of connect it to your why. And if you're able to do that, it's an awful lot of fun and it's very professionally satisfying and something that you'll never forget.
Okay. With that, we'll conclude this session. I thank you again.